so far. It's still, it won't go to zero.
Mine won't either, man. I think the echo's gonna fuck with the YouTube. I'm astounded like we've even made it this far. So anybody that's watching, like this is incredible as is. So I'm trying to see if it's live on YouTube at the moment as well. I don't know if it is. Oh yeah. I think it's live. I'll turn the volume off on that as well.
You got Joe Surf in the house.
Legend.
Oh yeah. I think.
Okay.
Oh.
So this is predominantly on YouTube. Right now I'm looking at Instagram. Now I'm looking at YouTube. There's a lag on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, let us know if the volume is shit and we'll cancel Instagram. All right, cool. So anybody that is watching, cool. We're going to do a Q&A. We're going to talk some shit. If you want to ask questions, we've already got quite a lot of questions from people that have submitted on Instagram. And so we'll go through those. But if you have questions, ask them on YouTube because there's too many texts and stuff. I don't know how to do Instagram Live. And again, like it's a miracle that Twiggy and I are even doing this right now. So,
one small step for mankind.
Man, this is like first steps on the moon type of shit. Like, all right, cool. So everybody that's joining, I'm Chris. This is Twiggy.
Thank you.
Any opening words, Twiggy?
That's my new board. Well, it's my old board with an awesome spray job.
The spray looks good, man.
So cool. Stoked. Arky Surf Shop in Chungu. Stoked. I have got a couple. I want to give a quick shout out to Jawa Surf because yesterday you and I spoke about the subject of adaptation, and Jawa Surf, as you know, makes our fins, and obviously they don't get them from China anymore. And they very quickly have adapted to getting locally made fins here in Bali and providing people with work that were potentially nearly all out of work. So I want to say a big thank you to Jawa Surf for they've already made me a rad set of keels, and I'm about to pick up some more next week. And yeah, they're looking really cool. So
that's
thank
epic,
you.
man. Yeah. Anybody that if you are in Bali, check them out. Legit fins. It's pretty much all I surf now are just Jawa fins. And,
yeah, same.
And you can get them delivered. And they're the same templates, same factories. Although now, like you said, they're doing them in Bali. So shit, man. Throw your money at a good fin company and somebody that's doing something decent for the world rather than one of these major fin conglomerates.
Yeah, supporting the local economy, which is super cool. You know, they've quickly found a way to get around the fact that they couldn't get any more fins, and now they're making them here, and it's actually doing more benefit for the island than it was for previously.
Cool.
So, yeah, really cool, man.
Cool. Opening thoughts, man. What do you have for breakfast?
Oh, dude, I wanted to ask you what was the last meal did you eat, because I had duck eggs.
Speaking of, when Fiona and I were still in Bali, we were ordering from Jiwa, Bali. I don't think they'll deliver all the way up your way, but like if you're in Canggu and Ulu, they do. And yeah, you'd get duck egg. Man, I was eating duck eggs for breakfast multiple times a week.
I got them across the road from my mate Ben, and his ducks hadn't been laying eggs for a couple of weeks. And then this morning, one of the employees came in with this bowl like full of duck eggs, and I'm like, I'll be taking a dozen of those, thank you, and just reach for my wallet. Yeah, and just to have like just such a, haven't had them in ages. So the difference between duck eggs and normal chook eggs, and have them fresh.
And especially quality duck eggs, man. The yellow orangeness of that yolk is intense, isn't it? Yeah.
And the yolk took up like half the egg, you know.
So good, man. Yeah, last meal I had, breakfast I had leftover like lamb neck stew with cauliflower and pear. And then for lunch I had a big bowl of like blueberry, kind of just like a protein smoothie, blueberries and some cucumber.
Yeah. Right now, I got a bowl of walnuts, cashews, almonds, and because it's late in the day, I've gone for ketones instead of coffee.
Yes, it's too late for me to be on coffee. I've been doing chai green tea. 1 or 2 coffees in the morning, and I flick over to tea. And I've been doing this tea mix. Somebody would have seen me post about this on social media. It's a mix, like you just slow simmer, orange peels, rosemary, ginger, clove, fennel seeds, red onion.
Wow.
And I think that's about it. And those are actually all like antimicrobial. There's like some, I think you get hesperidin from the orange peels. You're getting like the quercetin out of the red onion is a zinc IS4 that helps pull zinc into a cell. So like there's some people, in the whole coronasphere chaos, there's
zinc thing's huge. I've been watching a lot of stuff about this.
So yeah, that's what I'm drinking. And then remember how I told you, for anybody watching, Netflix, Midnight Gospel. Have you watched an episode yet?
No, but you posted something yesterday about Netflix. There's something on the back of a tiger.
I don't think it's on Netflix. Maybe it is, but On the Back of a Tiger is good.
No, it was YouTube.
One out is on YouTube. It's about Gilbert Ling. Yeah. That's the only one I've watched was about Gilbert Ling, and he, this scientist, and this was my first introduction to him other than reading some stuff. He basically came out with new theories of how cell membranes operate and was chastised and ridiculed and kicked out of scientific communities, and he's right.
Yeah, he was about. I watched that episode, and they told him, what was it? Don't. It's a sacred cow.
Yeah,
you can't do that. And it was like, what do you mean? This is science. And it turns out he was right. And,
bro, I got to give a shout out to my boy Jarvis Hicks. I see him on YouTube. Dude, he's a buddy of mine from high school from years back, and he's watching this.
Wicked. Cool.
Wicked. So what I was going to say about Netflix, if you got Netflix, start watching The Midnight Gospel. And there was a quote on the first episode. Dr. Drew said it, but it wasn't his quote, but it was something about health, happiness, and contentment is about perceiving, dealing, and accepting reality with how reality actually is. And I thought that was a good quote.
Cool.
Damn good show.
Like it.
So yeah, anybody out there,
yeah.
Have a watch. So with that, man, anything to add? If not, let's get into some Q&A, because I think Zoom's going to kick us off after about 40 or 50 minutes.
Let's do it. Let's get in there.
Remember Jonathan that surfed the little right-hander with you and I that one day? Dude from Melbourne, barrister.
Yeah, Tabla. I was talking to him yesterday.
All right, question. Trick-specific land training patterns, valuable and examples. So my thought immediately goes to anything on a skateboard is going to be the closest, and then the cardboard stuff or Bosu stuff that Clay and I work with. So anybody watching, you can go into my app, Surf Athlete, download the free version, then you can go buy the cardboard surfer. You get all these kind of the fundamental 101s. But basic coordination, and in terms of tricks, I think the closest thing you're going to do needs to be in a skate bowl, or if you're practicing aerials, which I'm sure is fuck not, trampoline stuff, just so you can get used to how to coordinate the body. Outside of that, I think tricks need to be practiced in the water, just because I think most of doing tricks is figuring out where and when to do it on a wave face, and you can't practice that outside of the water.
Yeah, it's a tin of worms type of question, isn't it? I was actually thinking about this yesterday in relation to some things I could give for the Grom to coach over in the next village, like on land. And I thought, like, even something as, like, say you didn't have a skateboard or a surface to ride one on, some really simple things, like if you had like a heavy bag would be good because it doesn't move so much. But if you could just get used to pivoting on your front foot and just having your arms up and just gently tapping the bag in different places and keeping your balance while you did it and doing it from different distances. So you've got to be in a bit closer and a bit more coiled up, and then some other ones with your leg a bit longer. Things like that could work really well. The skateboarding thing, which we touched on yesterday, I've still been thinking about, and having that gentle hill to provide the momentum so you can focus on just really smooth body movements.
Yeah.
Once you're in that place where you have that calm mind, you can start to like force that rear hand a bit, which will travel through and maybe get the trucks to slide a tiny bit and start to feel what does what, how much pressure is required to release the tail of the skateboard, i.e. the fins of the surfboard. But yeah, as you say, every situation on the wave is super different. So it's man, there's a lot you can do on land, and there's only so much. It only cuts it to a certain point.
Yeah,
that's my opinion on this.
No, I totally agree. And before I elaborate, people on Instagram, I'm looking at you now. Yes, there's echo. Get off of Instagram and go watch this on YouTube, because everybody on YouTube says the audio is legit. It's because Instagram is picking up audio off the computer lag, so bail off of Instagram if you need to. Yeah, I think the whole surf coaching thing has become, obviously it's a lot bigger now than say it was 5-10 years ago, especially 10 years ago. And so everybody wants, how do I do this, and how do I practice this on land, and what can I do? And it's not like a golf swing, because surfing, you're dealing with the physics of this 3-dimensional moving entity. And so a lot of it just has to be practiced in the water. And there's basic things you can do on land of just movement and figuring out where to go and how to coordinate, like you said, upper body and what that's doing. But a lot of it, again, I keep going back, like the closest thing would be in a skate bowl, because at least then you can deal with centrifugal forces. And outside of that, it's just a lot of repetition in the water.
And even just the tiniest, gentlest of skate bowls, like I said, like I haven't ridden a skateboard for a long time until recently, and so I was riding one in this tiny little, it's like the kiddies pool, you know.
Yeah.
And even then I came off and hurt my hand a little bit, but yeah, just to get those feelings in something really mellow at first, and then just start to push it a little further. That's all we're ever doing.
Yeah, skateboarding's unforgiving too, man, the pavement. Actually, since I've been back, I've watched very little surfing. Like, I've been watching shitload of, like, skate videos. All the new Thrasher videos and stuff coming out.
Hey, did you get the voice message I sent you yesterday afternoon?
Yeah. So pop-ups in the change of incline of the surfboard and... Yeah.
I've been thinking about that a bit more since I sent it to him. Like, if you think about if you're doing a pop-up practice on land, like on a mat or wherever it is that you do it, think about the gravitational force, just, daily gravity pushing you down and you lying flat on the ground. And then think about the difference of it if you're doing it. I don't know, if you could even just find a good little incline to practice your pop-up, you might find that there's a bit more space for that front leg to come through, and it'll feel a little more like it's meant to on a surfboard.
I think so.
Food for thought.
The bit of incline is good. And then, I think people fail to recognize that generally if you can do it well on dry land, I think it'll be easier in the water because you will, especially if the wave's got some actual wave to it, where it does start dropping out from beneath you and gives you a little more space to get the feet. Cool. Let's see. Speaking of, we did I asked for questions on Instagram, and Instagram has just become a troll of shitty bots. So basically, if you ask for questions now on Instagram, all you get is like bot accounts of like, hey, check out my site, and like, I don't know. It's just, so anyways. Like, here's one. Would you like motivation inspo? Follow me. Come on, man. That's not asking a fucking question that we can answer on Surf Coaches and Coffee. Brittany Bork, exercise for the abs where the hip flexors don't load. So first, I would not want to know why you don't want to load the hip flexors. And then basic abdominal control stuff, even some of the old school blood pressure cuff under the low back, seeing if you're maintaining lumbar stabilization. You could look towards dead bugs. You could look towards, like, again, this is a blood pressure cuff thing. If you're on your back, maintaining lumbar arch with knees bent, like tabletop position, and you try to drive your knees up to the ceiling. So you're basically driving into a posterior tilt and trying to raise your kneecaps up to the ceiling. That is just going to be working kind of internal, external oblique. So it's a lot of breath work. If you can look into either some basic DNS supine protocols or dead bug variations, those things will hit pretty hard. A lot of it is learning how to control your pelvic position and being able to stabilize that against the load of the hip flexors. Okay, next surf question. Twiggy, front foot placement parallel to the back foot or slightly angled forward?
Man, this is a question that I think it's one of those everybody's different type of answers, and I guess I'd like your opinion on this. If everyone's different in their range of motion from their hips, and that transfers down to your feet,
yeah,
correct?
Yeah.
So for me, I find like definitely my front foot is angled forward and directly in the middle of the board where it should be. My back foot is probably complementing that slightly, but I do see surfers, and it's something I do pay a lot of attention to when I'm watching videos, especially like higher level surfers, and I notice their back foot is 90 degrees and sometimes slightly opposing, but as we've spoken about, these are people who are incredibly flexible and professional sports people. So I guess they can get away with it more. I think for us mere mortals, it's slightly complementing is a really good thing, and the ability to lift your back heel, which therefore helps your hips to rotate forward, is
100%.
For my surfing, ridiculously important.
Yeah. Back foot for sure. I think you're still talking. I lost your audio, Twig.
I was finished, but yeah.
There we go. Sorry, I was watching YouTube and it's like 20 seconds behind. So, yeah. I think people get too fixed on surfing that like, what is the exact right placement, and give me degrees and inches apart, and there's nothing ever varying from that. And it's so back foot, like you and I talk about a lot. There's movement to it. There's variability. It's in front of the tail pad. It's back on the tail pad. Depending on what you want to do with the turn, it's coming up onto the big toe. It's moving quite a lot. My front foot stays relatively planted, and if this is stringer, it tends to be, I would say, probably square to slightly forward.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, if you think in terms of that presentation that we do, that Clayton has handed to us, that there's that one where they compare Kelly to the runner out of the blocks, and he's highlining or mid to highlining at J Bay, right?
Yep.
His back foot, his heel is up.
Yes.
And he's like in that posture about to go down and around the section. Now, if let's say, hypothetically speaking, he went down and around that section and the wave slowed up and he was going to rock back into a turn, you'd probably find that then his foot was more square
for sure
to the stringer.
Yeah.
So it's the ability to move that back foot in particular is paramount, I reckon, to good functional surfing.
Totally. I think people get too stuck on they get too stuck on what is the only right position, and there is not one, except don't have the thing pointed backwards on the back foot. But I
think there's a case to be answered for if you struggle to move your back foot, you need to start asking yourself, am I good at getting around sections? Because that would lend me to think that you don't, or you probably might not be capable of getting all your weight onto the front foot.
Not at all, yeah.
So, and that's why you can't move the back
Too
one around.
Stuck, rear foot heavy, pushing and just like trying to make speed by like shoving the back foot into the board, whereas it should be. And
it would possibly coincide with that leaving the back arm behind while you're trying to go forwards.
And it just looks sick.
Oh, dude, don't get me started on how it looks.
So there's a follow-up question to that, and Miguel Marquina says hello to Twiggy.
Hey, Miguel.
Miguel asked Beck's exercises to loosen the hips, but it's a follow-up to the guy that asked about the front foot placement, taking care of your front knee joint. Really, I would say in relation to both knee joints, if you have knee problems, you have an ankle issue or a hip issue. And so best exercises for loosening up hips, like it's a question that there is no best. There is a requirement for you to put in long-term effort for the remainder of you having a human body to keep your hips mobile. So that could be some yoga-esque stuff. A baseline 90-90 hip position, baseline shin boxes. If you, Miguel and the other fellow that was asking, if you go download my Surf Athlete app, get the free workout, and there starts to be hip stuff in there. And then beyond that, 90-90 hip positions. So for front knee joint health, I find most people have rear knee issues surf-wise, and that's usually due to a lack of ankle range of motion and a lack of internal femoral rotation, so internal hip rotation. So again, you've got to keep your hips as mobile as possible and ankles. And generally, if that's happening, the knees, there's enough range of motion above and below in the body so it doesn't just beat the shit out of a knee joint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any other questions on that? Anything to follow up there, Twiggy, before I start scrounging through here and finding another question?
No, I feel like we kind of got through that one.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Well, this is an all right question. This is broad. You and I we can talk some jive on this. What are the most important things that you look on a surfer to be in shape? So we could extrapolate that. Like, Twiggy, what do you think some of the most relevant things are for a surfer to stay, let's say, not even in shape, just healthy and capable?
I always look like if I'm in the surf, and I kind of break people down into mathematical equations, and the thing that I notice the most, or the thing that people carry the most or the least, because the first glimpse you get at people is usually of them paddling.
Yep.
So if I see someone paddling with really good posture and good stroke and they're arched back, and I can usually get a pretty good idea of, at the very least, how good they're going to be at catching waves.
Mm-hmm.
And once if they've got that posture on a surfboard, it means they've probably spent a fair bit of time in the ocean.
Yeah.
And they're going to have good identification skills. And look, I mean, sometimes they'll surprise you on a wave and not be anywhere near what you thought they were, but it's usually a pretty telling thing. So posture, and look, I mean, most good surfers are let's call it not overweight, but it's not
just call it what it is,
the
man.
case. But
just call it what it is, bro. Most good surfers aren't. Well, yeah, we'll just stay nice. Overweight.
Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck.
Look, I just feel like, especially when it comes to gliding across the water or paddling and that sort of thing, and getting a bit of duration out of it, you want to be like lean and built like something that moves through the water well.
It comes the way I look at it, right? So let's say I get somebody off the street, average surfer. So this whole, what do you look for in a surfer? It depends on their skill level, first of all. Like what you need out of a beginner surfer is different from what you need from a competitive surfer or somebody surfing as much as Twiggy. And somebody surfing as much as Twiggy couldn't be 45 pounds overweight. It wouldn't fucking work. So that's what we're talking about. Like, don't be overweight. There's a lot of things, that has systemic negative health issues, but carrying an extra 45 pounds makes things hard. So generally speaking, I think like people, average surfer, average 30 to 50-year-old dude, mobility comes first. Like, does your spine move? Do your hips move? Because if your spine don't move, you're not going to be able to get into the posture that Twiggy's talking about. If your hips don't move, you're not going to be able to pop up. And then on top of that, like I would look at initially probably like basic fitness, which we'd be looking at like what type of cardiovascular capabilities do you have? Like, and again, with that, you're probably not going to be overweight. So, swim, do some jogging, do your heart and lungs do their job. And then you start looking at specific work capacity of the upper body. Because if you're not surfing often, like where else in your life do you do this with your arms for like 2.5 hours straight? You don't. So there needs to be some
interesting
capacity.
As you were just explaining all of that, it made me understand or realize man, it's a big deal. Like all of these little things, like from the ankles to the knees to the hips to the everything in between and the shoulders. You want them all working well because they all have a job to do. Like even if you've got some busted up footballers' knees and that leg's really stiff, so much harder to get it through that gate to stand up, especially if it's your front foot, right? So it's a real holistic package that you need to be looking at for good mobility, good surfing, good movement through the water, good movement on the wave.
100%, man. So if you look at, everybody has this aspiration to be a good surfer. So for reference sake, think of a Slater, a Fanning, John, whatever, because then you have a good representation of what the movement attributes are required. It is just as complex and demanding as high-level dancing and high-level gymnastics and high-level martial arts. And then people wonder why their bodies don't feel good in the surf when they're out of shape. Shape being systemically, holistically, head to toe, health, out of shape. It doesn't work because surfing well and for longevity and durability and improving requires a really just well-functioning musculoskeletal system. So ask yourself, could you jump into some high-level dance right now without tearing a hamstring and throwing a back out? It's probably no wonder your back gives you shit when you surf.
Yeah. When I'm surfing a lot, it only takes one little thing. Like, I used to have that hip issue, which would kind of wear down after a week or more of like just surfing my guts out.
Yeah.
And it was like, sometimes it'd have to be a couple of days out of the water to get it back in order. So just one little thing in one of these many body parts can
100%.
really be a problem.
Yeah. And usually you see like spines and shoulders. Those are the things that like need to be looked after the most. So like anybody that I'm doing work with, like it's just basic spine care, like basic fundamental stretches to keep the spine going well. Because once that thing goes, man, everything else goes like 100%.
Yeah. And then it takes us down a path of all the way back to nutrition and anti-inflammatory foods.
Yep.
What are you putting into your body? Because it makes a massive difference.
Profound difference.
Yeah. That was a good question. We really went somewhere with that.
Yeah. No, that was good, man. I like when we can just like go deep and talk some shit. What about Carver skateboards? Do you recommend? Actually, this was a question from Ale.Berardinelli, and also your boy Miguel Marquina asked it. What about Carver skateboards? Do you recommend them to improve your surfing? I think we've kind of covered this a bit. I mean, I'm all for them. Like I was on it yesterday.
Yeah.
I haven't skated. I haven't really felt smooth stars, but from everything, it's one of the closest things you can get to replicating some of the positions and rotational movements that you need in surfing on dry land.
From what I've seen of those two brands, I think, like regardless of if one's better than the other, and I've only ridden Carvers, and I really think they're probably that close that it's a negligible argument, because if you're not doing it properly, it wouldn't matter which one you were on, right? So this brings us back to that slight incline. I've had people like even at my level of riding a Carver, as soon as I got on one and I was able to generate a little bit of speed, and just it was like I was 15 and skateboarding again because I remembered how to do it. Now, I've had people who I've gone, have you ever skateboarded or ridden a Carver? And they've gone, no. And I've gone, all right, we're going to do it. And I just get them on a perfectly flat surface and just hold them like ballroom dancing partner and just walk with them. And then just because they've got that safety mechanism of being holding onto you, you can start to steer them slowly and gently and smoothly, and they get it really quickly.
Yeah.
So I do think they're really good, used properly.
If used properly, yeah. You can do shit technique to reinforce shit technique on a Carver.
Exactly.
And I think just the simple, I think during our live feed, or maybe it was just you and I chatting, where I was just talking about like being able to just be fluid and soft with your movement. Can you do that on top of a Carver skateboard? Or do you look like stiff poo man? Oh, I'm about to fall and eat it, and I'm stiff from head to toe. That's how you're going to look. I'm sure that's probably how somebody's going to look on a surfboard. So it's can you be comfortable and fluid with your body and its mechanics on a moving, unstable board? And so just
tense
that alone,
versus relaxed.
Yeah, that's it. Can you just stand on it and just be relaxed and chill? Soul arch on it.
Yeah.
Compress, extend. Yeah. Cool. How often per week are you using the Wim Hof breathing? Have you ever done much of the Wim Hof, Twiggy? You've done a bit.
I actually, when I was in Nicaragua, Mike from Surf Mastery took me through a round of it to show to someone else who, this girl had trodden on a stonefish. And Mike showed me the breathing methods to show her to help with the venom not having such an effect on her body. Yeah. And I was blown away. And I'm going to be completely honest here. I said, I've got to start doing that in 2020. And I've only done it once. Yeah,
it's like, direct to the question, I maybe do it anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. In the morning, like I'll do it. If I do it, it's in the mornings. I do slight variations of it. Actually, if you go on my YouTube, there's a recent video of how to Wim Hof better. And the only thing I do differently is I alter people's breath mechanics, so they're more focused on good breathing rather than just. But yeah. No, the Wim Hof stuff's legit. As with any breath protocol, it's just a matter of doing it.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Rusty's huge on it. Rusty Moran at Gerringong Surf School, he does it every day, and then he climbs into a chest freezer full of freezing cold water with his hand coffee grinder, and he's not allowed out till the coffee's ground.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it, man. I wouldn't mind having a freezer here, although it's getting cold. In fact, Fiona and I drove to the snow yesterday. Fucking snow, man. Full on snow.
All the pictures.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Wim Hof stuff's good. Where I see a lot of surfers go wrong with it is they think it's working on their breath hold. It's not at all. It will probably do nothing for a dry or like a dry breath hold or like a intense breath hold, like in water scenario. Like breath holds are prolonging with Wim Hof because you're altering blood levels of CO2. But with that said, there are a lot of positive benefits, and just getting into breath work will lead into other variations of breath work. And then like we talk about on the trips, Twiggy, like people can use breath in a variety of circumstances to help calm or to help excite or to help focus or to chill or to change. You change your breath, you change your physiology. That's what Wim Hof's doing, you know?
Yeah. Cool.
Question from YouTube. Christian Lang. Hi, you two. Could you go a little deeper into breathing while surfing, paddling and actually surfing? I know you two found that quite important. Wow, that was a damn good follow-up. So I would say, first off, when people hold their breath when they surf is like number one fault you need to change with breathing and surfing, right? Like it should be, again, like, can you be on a skateboard and slowly, calmly exhale as you compress and breathe in as you come up and exhale as you rotate and coordinate movement and forces of your body with calm, chill breathing. And then, you know, like Twiggy, you do your exhale to help kind of, I think your big slow in out helps to focus and slow and calm. And then there is that actual weight change on your surfboard. So if you want to elaborate on that, man, go for it.
If you're holding your breath in the ocean, besides when you're underwater, you just got to ask yourself a simple question: why am I holding my breath?
Because you're shredding.
And the reason would be because my mind is fucking shit up. And and so the reason they talk about focusing on the breath, say for example in yoga, is because it gets rid of the busy mind chatter. So if you just if you paddle a long wave and you're paddling back out, just focus on the breath. Whatever you're doing, listen to it. Focus on it. As soon as you pay attention to it, because we're not really the smartest creatures in the world. Everything else sort of falls by the wayside. So the breath's a good thing to focus on because it gets rid of all the BS.
Yeah, I think it's one thing people take for granted. So you probably do it naturally. Good surfers do it naturally. Is
Yeah.
changing their breathing requirements based on the physiology requirements, right? So like I'll sink my breath slow, super calm with a slow, super calm paddle out. Or if I've just come up from a hold down, I'll do something a little differently to help regain that breath, but then immediately start to try to regain my composure of breathing and nice slow in, slow out. But people should start paying more attention to their training, their like workouts, and start paying more attention to regaining composure of breath in between sets, maintaining composure of breathing while they're training. So like I'll do jump rope circuits here in the house where I'm just trying to maintain calm breath rates the whole time. And so it's an easy thing you can start taking in the water. Are you a little stressed out and paddling and unnecessarily, and can you calm that down and slow the breath rate down and regain a better neck position and a better arch position and then breathe from there? Breath rate slows down the heart rate. Paddle a little more chill, get into a better position, calm down.
Yeah, even just think about if you had a good wave, even if you've got it beating, just smile because you either just got a good wave or you just didn't die.
Yep.
So as soon as you bust out a bit of happiness, you're gonna it's a lot easier to regulate that breathing and just get back to a good heart rate level.
I need to smile more in the surf. That's going to be a priority of mine. More smiling in the surf. Mr. Vetton, fresh pot. Good call, man. I wish it was early enough for me to have a fresh pot of coffee. Fresh pot! Inside joke for everybody wondering why the hell I'm screaming about a fresh pot.
You've been eating a few fresh pots with that new child.
Yeah, I wonder how it's going with him in the sleep. Hey. Here's a question. Tight hamstrings. It's really not a question. It's just a statement of tight hamstrings. This is from a dude I actually knew in Byron Bay like 15 years ago. So I'm assuming what to do with tight hamstrings. If you've got, there's some kind of like downstream neurophysiology that can affect hamstrings. Jaw stuff, neck stuff, pelvic positioning. But the basics of it, if you have tight hamstrings, you basically need to go into some stretching protocols almost daily because you're trying to create a change in tissue and length tensions. So baseline, like you could look up Google hamstring Pales Rails and then also Google hamstring Emmett Lewis. And you'll get some like loaded stretching protocols for the hamstrings. But it's not like, let me do a stretch once a day, twice a week, and you're going to get a change. It would need to be like a protocol that is daily kind of thing. Also, you can look up Gray Cook toe touch sequence, and that it will kind of play with motor control of the pelvis and might give you a little more hamstring range. Okay. On to some next questions. Strength mobility standards. We kind of went over that. We've got some questions on Instagram. So, I'm Jolly Jen. I'm starting to learn surfing, but my most struggle is to know what is the best board I need to use and what kind of wave I'm supposed to go after. I mostly go for a 6'8" longboard, and I'm 5 foot. That's a loaded question, man. Twiggy, I'm gonna let you jump onto that, bro.
Well, I mean, if she's at a very much a beginner level, the 6'8" for a 5'0" person is probably not a bad thing.
8'6", not 6'8", 8'6".
8'6", that's massive. Is it a softboard? Is it a longboard? If it's a longboard, that's a lot of surfboard to handle. Is she taking off in the white water? Is she catching the green wave? She hasn't been very specific here, and no offence to her, of course. Look, I mean, it's a matter of just starting somewhere and progressing from there, really, isn't it? So what are you comfortable with? What are you currently uncomfortable with? And how can you progress from the one to the other?
Yeah.
So obviously it's just increments of progression leading you to eventually become comfortable with the uncomfortable. Now, as far as surfboards go, if you've been, I don't know how often she gets to surf, but if you've been riding that particular board, say for 6 months and riding it regularly and you want to change, I would only suggest coming down in increments of about 6 or so inches and just start to feel boards of less length and volume, width and thickness, underneath your feet. And each time you do, it'll be some new sensations and you'll find them easier to manage. And hopefully you'll also be able to manage them in some waves of more consequence than you were riding the last time.
Yeah.
And it's like, honestly, it's a 10-year journey. So so many people are like, wow, when is this going to happen? How do I do this? When am I going to get barreled? You and I spoke about this one yesterday. Oh, I just want to get barreled. It's like, man, good luck. I mean, you really, even the Grom that I coach, he like, I want to start learning how to do airs. And I said, well, firstly, I can't do them. But secondly, I'm not even going to attempt to teach you how until you've learned to do all the turns I can do, and then we'll work on going there. Or I'll pass you on to someone who can teach them way better than I could.
For real.
But it's a progression thing. Like there's no shortcuts. Honestly, there's just doing the right things the right way over the right amount of time. And some people are going to, everyone progresses at their own level.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Holly, she says it's a hard board, but it's hard for us to answer because we don't know what level of beginner. Like if you are straight up beginner, then you just need to be on something that floats and something that can catch some white water. And then once you're beyond just catching white water, that board will probably be preventative in then you catching like 1 to 3 foot green waves. And so it is this progression in that over the span of your next 2 years of beginning to surf, if you're doing it consistently, you could easily probably go through 3 boards within that 2 years. Maybe even more, huh? Depending what the wave is, how fast you're progressing. And so if it's total beginner, soft top kind of thing, you just need to feel the physics of what is happening and being pushed by a wave and getting upright. And then you transition to a different board if you're starting to catch some waves out the back in like the 2 foot range and you're having to then paddle it more. And then if you're going to even bigger waves, then you need to start transitioning to a shorter board if it's going to start requiring duck dives. So yeah, like Twiggy says, it's progression and it's going to be time.
And on top of that, where do you live? Like, is the area I live in conducive to beginner learning surfing? And if so, that's awesome. If you live in a place where the waves are kind of, a longer period or a bit heavier or whatever, it's not really conducive to that lower level of learning and beginner surfing. So that frame's going to be longer rather than shorter. And it's kind of a big subject with a lot of little subjects inside it.
Yeah, it's a lot of those what ifs. There's conditions. It's a conditioned response. We need to know those kind of conditions. I've got to say, Zoom might kick us off here shortly. And so if that, I think they might have extended their duration of calls. I'm not sure, but we're at the like 43-minute mark. So if we get cut off soon, thank you for everybody. Twiggy, find him at Better Surf Technique on Instagram.
Yeah.
For me, we'll continue doing more of these. I'll have Clayton on in the next couple of days. We'll keep an eye out on Instagram and stuff. We'll ask for more questions from people. If you don't have my app yet, go to the App Store or Google, Android or whatever, and download the Surf Athlete app. There are free versions, variations. There's some paid programs. There's technique. There's training. We've still got some time. Until we get kicked off, let's just keep doing this and doing some questions, yeah? Yeah, everybody keeps saying on Instagram there's echo. I've said it a lot of times. Go to YouTube. All good there. Christian, you're welcome. Yeah, okay. From Miguel, how long should I ride longer boards in an attempt to earn my turn? I'll let you go on that one, Twiggy, because I reckon once you've earned it, apply it to a shorter board.
Yeah, look, I can't stress enough the benefits of staying on boards that are a little bit lengthier until you have a smooth, even style and learn to flow with the wave. and surf the wave the way it allows to be surfed. And then if you, like I said before, about in 6-inch increments, if you start going beyond that, things are going to feel so new that it's could be less beneficial for your progression. It may actually be detrimental. So, yeah, and look, I mean, one way to go about it would be, rather than say I'm riding a 6'6" or a 7-foot board, and hopefully it's not too wide and thick, but look at what you might want to go to next and say, do I have a friend that rides something that's a bit more shorter and tucked in? Right. Try things. Don't just rush out and buy this because someone told you you're ready or whatever. Try things and go, wow, that felt good, or wow, that was a bit too much, or whatever, and work within those parameters.
I think there needs to be more trying, right? Like, how many guys do we get on our trips where Clay or you're like, nah, all the boards you brought are shit. You shouldn't be riding them. Try this. But it is, we're in a realm of like, oh, that board's sick. Let's get it, without actually being able to try one from a friend.
There's a lot of, maybe quite a few, employees of surf shops out there that have a lot to answer for in that regard, because they, in their haste to sell a surfboard, they don't ask the surfer enough questions, and maybe in their defense, they don't get the right answers when they do ask the right questions.
I think that's probably a big part of it,
Yeah. I wrote an article for Still Stoked on choosing choosing the surfboard. And I said at the end of the article, this is me on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. I said, if you ever want to just message me and ask my advice or something, I'm happy to give it to you. Yeah. If you can send me like a video of your surfing or just what you're riding and how it feels, the more information you give me, the better.
That's the biggest one, the video, I reckon. Like, if people could go into a shaper and be like, hey, this is me, this is where I'm surfing, that's the way to get a board that's actually like decent for you.
Yeah, and this is the wave that I ride the most, and this is what it's like a lot of the time. Yeah. Yeah. Man, a good shaper will see that and go, right, I pretty much know exactly what you need.
You'd hope so. Certainly hope so.
Yeah.
We had a question. Twig, explain the layback. How do you go after a layback?
I mean, as in a drop wallet or on the backside?
Full comment. Twig, explain the layback. How you attack it, from Goodsy 1207.
So, I mean, if it's referring to a front side drop wallet turn, the momentum you carry into the turn will push you back over the board. On your backhand, it's just about finding that position and having a good, strong core and just leaning back. Depends on the steepness of the wave or the hollowness of the wave. I used to do them really well when I was at Grom and I rode 20s and that sort of stuff. I find I'm not as good at them now, but I did a few earlier this year, which I was kind of stoked with. Got a mate at Bingen, Salam. He's the layback king. Like, he just runs the show out there doing layback barrels all the time, with look backs and stuff. It's going to come down a lot to your ability to read when's the best time to do them, and then over to Chris about flexibility and strength and that sort of thing. Like, one thing I found when I was at Grom, when I was doing a lot of laybacks and mucking around with them and that, it was really easy to end up with a couple of fins poking you in the back.
Man, that's so gnarly, dude. Fin slices properly stress me out.
I used to just go over the falls on my fins.
Properly stress me out. When I was thinking about doing this conversation last night, I was going to ask, because I actually ask Clay at times. So, me personally, I find my surfing to have like the undulation between failure and success. Like, you surf consistently. Clay surfs consistently. And I don't mean often. I mean, like, your surfing is consistent with what you're capable of doing, the skill, right? And you've seen me surf, man. Some days I'll go out there and put it together. And other days it's like I've never fucking surfed before. And so do you, A, see it in yourself that you're consistent? Or do you feel that you too have big undulations in abilities? Because I feel like, I think mine is largely like, I almost know if I'm going to have a shit surf because like energetically I'm low, or if I'm feeling foggy or something. But yeah, do you feel you have the highs, lows, or do you feel pretty even keel a lot of the time?
I don't really feel there's big undulations at all, but I do pay real close attention to how I feel about my surfing at a level of, let's, for the sake of the conversation, let's call it enjoyment. Sometimes I feel I can become really stagnant, and it usually relates to riding the same board for a long amount of time. And that's when I start getting on bigger boards and riding them as twin fins, or I get on like a tiny little board, and I change things up and I go, right, here's the swell charts for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to ride that board for a few days. I'm going to ride that board when I come off that board, and start to muck around with it and get different feelings under my feet. And then I'm really specific about the timing that I get back on my favorite board. And usually when I do, I'm like, man, that was the best thing ever. Like, to do what I just did for 1 or 2 weeks just added a whole new level of enjoyment to coming back to my favorite board or boards again. So yeah, it's, for me, that's important, just paying attention to how do I feel about my surfing.
Yeah.
And if I have like a real crappy surf, I go, well, why did I have a crappy surf? What were the waves like? What was I riding? Could I have made a better choice? Et cetera, et cetera.
I think that's really important, man. Like, so I'll throw Jade into the boat, similar to myself, Kathy Curcio, shout out. A type A kind of driven, athletically capable, like all of us across the board, we're like collegiate level athletes. And yeah, I think for those of us in some of that regard, it can be, surfing's incredibly frustrating unto itself. So yeah, like I said earlier, I just need to smile more. And then,
yeah,
probably should. What's your favorite board, by the way, at the moment? You're still doing that Fark Hazel, are you?
The 511 and the 60 FRK Slater designs. They're easily my two favourite boards at the moment, for sure. And then I've been mucking around with fins too. I haven't ridden a set of large fins for a long, long time. I've been riding mediums and then small fins.
Well, because people are going to ask why. So from my perspective, it's just forces you to surf better, because you can't just force and muscle your way through shit. You've actually got to work on placement and letting the board do the surfing, not just shoving through stuff, because then it'll just slide out. Actually getting the board to do what it's designed to do.
Yeah, and I've found like the FRKs having that nice rounded pin, you can get away with smaller fins, and they've got like a lower rail profile, which sort of gets into the water easier. So you're using a bit more rail and a bit less fin, and just, I don't know, there's something about them that allows me more time to sort of twist my upper body through a turn, and it feels good. So yeah, I've just been mucking around with that. And then when I get on the bigger boards, I ride them as twinnies with a little trailer or something. And then you've got all this swing weight in front of you. So it's an extra 2 seconds to get the board around. So you've got no choice but to, like we've spoken about, earn that turn, slow it down, and just allow it to take that time. And hopefully you've done it in a place where it all fits,
Yeah. Speaking of, that's actually a really good segue. Goodsy asked to follow up, does riding a twin fin give you more flow? Yes, if you surf it well. From my perspective, 100%. Because you actually have to, if you start surfing a twinny, you actually have to be softer and more subtle with it and coordinate the movements and let the surfboard do the surfing, not trying to just manhandle it through and shove it around.
Yeah. As soon as you, let's say, for example, extend your legs on a small twinny or a loose board, or that board's just, you're telling the board to go away and it'll do exactly that. So you've got to stay sort of lower. If it's a shorter twinny, then over the middle of the board, and you're kind of surfing a lot more with your shoulders and just real subtle, gentle movements that, it's good fun.
Did you
that one behind me?
Is it a twinny?
Yeah, that's a Machado Midas. So I can ride it as a twinny or a thruster or a twinny with the stabilizer. And Naruki or Aki Surf Shop just did that spray on it, and it just looks so nice.
Yeah.
I can't wait to ride it again one day.
Speaking of twin fins, did you see the video I posted in the Surf Strength Coach community group of Torrin Martin surfing Desert Point? I think it was Torrin Martin. Desert Point on a twin fin. Like, we've surfed, Fiona and I have surfed a bit since we've been back in Australia, but I haven't had the itch. And until I saw that video, and finally I was like, fuck, I want to go surf.
He's an exceptional surfer, huh? Like his feel for the wave and where he can put those boards, like he's riding mostly pretty long twinnies, and they're pretty flat. I don't know if like the fins are a bit straighter, or there's a clip of him in Mexico, I think, too, or quite a long one. And oh my God, I'm not always a huge fan of those types of boards or whatever, but just watching him ride them and the things he does on them,
it's incredible.
Takes them.
It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, great clips, and he's smooth, and the way he uses his upper body and that, it's almost like watching someone surf a single fin really well.
Yeah, again, I think both of those it's graceful in its sense that they've got to be soft and smooth and really work with the wave. Like, their wave reading ability is just insane, of where, like Martin, where he places it and where he's doing his turns and reverts, and it's something to work towards. So, well,
hey, have you got any more questions? Can I run one through?
Yeah, run one through, man.
Okay, so my friend Jenna wanted to talk to me, and then she tried to get us she wanted to see if we could do the question on the YouTube live. So she said, basically, I just want a couple of simple tips, one or two main things to focus on that I can practice when learning how to smack the lip, mostly arm placement.
Have you seen her
now, surf? I have, but not for a long time. But it's a really cool timing for her to ask this question, because I had this conversation with my friend Ben and then another guy recently also. And it comes very much back to that, wherever you look, you go. Mm. So if you're going down and looking straight up you'll go. Now, when you go straight up, you can't extend your legs through the turn, because you're telling the board to go away. So you want to use your shoulders. So like Clay points out, it's like that Muay Thai elbow. So bang, twist. Now also it's another integral part of it, I guess, and this is relevant to the two guys I was talking to about it. You've got to get out of that mindset of surfing the middle of the wave. You've got to start surfing the whole wave from bottom to top. And then you're creating the space for smacking the lip.
Yep.
If you're coming from the middle of the wave and then looking up, you're never going to have enough space to go up. It's always going to be to there, and then you're going to turn and your outside rail is going to dig on the way back down. But when you go vertical and you allow the lip to hit the board back down as you twist, then that's when you start to get those good results.
Yep.
So, Jenna, I'd start by just getting speed, going to the bottom of the wave, getting a smooth bottom turn in, and looking straight up.
Straight up.
And wherever you want to hit it, focus on that point, and then just twist your shoulders.
Yeah.
And
when I actually bring it together, I'm already, for those on Instagram, peace, you got like a minute left before it kicks off. As I'm bottom turning, I'm already looking up. I'm already there. Like, as I'm coming down to start the bottom turn, I've looked down. Then as the bottom turn's happening, I've already looked up. And then hands need to go there. And then, like you said, elbow, bring it back around.
It's because, like, a lot of people, they go to do a turn, but their head comes out of the turn early. And once your head's finished the turn's finished.
Yeah.
You're moving somewhere into a transitional phase into the next high line or turn or whatever. So you could do it's like when people do a really strong cutty and they look at their spray. They never hit the wash.
Oh man, when we surfed the wave pool, I told Fiona, I'm like, watch this guy. All his turns are shit because he keeps looking at his back foot and spray on every turn.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, man, you can't like just trust that the spray will be there, dude. You don't need to see it. Just
exactly. It's on camera. You're at the wave pool. Settle down. Turn your head back at the wash. Hit the wash with your hand, and the board will follow, right? So yeah, it's so wherever you look, you go.
Cool. You got a follow up with her?
Yeah.
Or is that it?
No, I think that's it. Jenna, by the way, you're welcome to message me anytime. Happy to do a private chat if you want to expand on it.
Cool. Well, man, I think we nailed it, dude. Anybody that's watching, thank you. Twiggy, any closing thoughts, dude? Closing remarks?
No, just
words of wisdom.
And everyone, just take care and do what you're allowed to do. I know it's weird times, and just don't get worked up. It'll all everything will be back to normal soon, and we can go and put all this practice into play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, hopefully we'll get to do some more of these chats soon. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but this thing will drag out for hours. Yeah, once again, I'd just like to say thanks to you for setting this all up and making it possible.
Because these are fun, man. It's going to be the
my tech skills are limited to being able to join in.
Well, we kind of got it. The only downfall of the day was some shitty echo across Instagram, but who cares anyway? It's like we're actually broadcasting to the world is a feat of achievement. Yeah. So, yeah, cool, man. Well, everybody hit up Twiggy on social media at Better Surf Technique. You probably already follow me. Cool. Hit us up with questions. We'll kind of keep them in the backlog for when we do another one of these. Keep an eye out. Yep. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy. Go watch Midnight Gospel on Netflix.
Oh, I will. Yeah.
Peace.
All right. Thanks, people. Cheers, Chris.